It is very, very difficult to find Canadians who are passionate about the American-Canadian relationship. Okay? You ran a campaign where, it was anti-American, elbows up, me too. It was an anti-American campaign. That has continued. That's disappointing. I talked to a lot of business people. They are passionate about the relationship because they recognize rebuilding ecosystems and rebuilding the kind of economic relationships that we have. As some people talk about, we'll go other places. It's kind of like, that's hard. Plus, this one works pretty well. We've created a lot of prosperity and wealth, high quality, high paying jobs by working together on both sides of the border. Like I said, I'm passionate for it. The business community is passionate for it, but they're not very public.
The U.S. ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra, was in Halifax on Friday for a Chambers of Commerce event. He made some of the most outrageous statements I have heard in a long time. I've never seen gaslighting that outrageous. So I want you to watch this clip, and then I'm going to explain why Canada is so angry at the United States. Okay, so we had our federal election in the spring, and elbows up was a prominent part of it, and pushing back against Trump's tariffs and the way we're being treated disrespectfully by the United States was a big part of it, absolutely. So Hoekstra calls it anti-American. He says he's disappointed with us. Well, let me tell you what we're disappointed with, because there's lots. First of all, Donald Trump becomes president on January 20th, and he talks about tariffs. He talks about squashing the Canadian economy. He talks about annexing us as the 51st state. He put on a bunch of tariffs, 50% on aluminum and steel, and threatened tariffs, and did put some tariffs on our auto industry, and they took them off, and then they were exempted. And some energy products had tariffs put on them, and some weren't. And it's chaos at the border. Canadian exporters don't know what are being applied to their products. They don't know who's supposed to collect them. I mean, this is no way to run a country, especially supposedly the most powerful country in the world. There was even talk about invading Canada. I mean, up in Canada, we were debating. I remember some old fellas, the boomers were talking about how they had hunting rifles, and by God, they would go and become snipers and fight back against those dirty Americans if they dared to cross the border. This is insane. We've had this, the longest undefended border in the world for at least since 1867. And, you're our biggest trading partner. You take 75% of our exports. We're your biggest source of imports, not China, Canada. We send all sorts of people down, people go and shop and vacation, and they go for business down in the U.S. Our economies are very tightly integrated. And we're not going down to the U.S. Now, I'm going to be doing a couple of interviews tomorrow with experts, including some Stats Canada economists who wrote a paper about this, about travel in the U.S., Canadian travel in the U.S. being lower. There's a reason for that. We're being treated awfully at the border. And actually, I interviewed Ken Jackson, who's a Surrey BC consultant, and he helps people get visas to go down in the States. He said, it's no secret why. He said, as soon as he came in, he said, one of the things he did was he sent an order, and he said, extreme vetting. He said, all of the rules, things have been so slack at the Canada-US border for years, decades, really, because we weren't any threat. What was the point? Trump told the border guards to enforce every rule, every regulation to the extreme vetting. And that's why a lot of Canadians who have been passing back and forth in the US for years suddenly are being subjected to checks, getting their phones checked, taken away, laptops, and we're just not putting up with it. We don't have to go down to the US. We don't travel down there is down by like 40, 50%. We're seeing ads from places like Las Vegas where they're begging Canadians to come back. Well, we're not going to do it because it's too dangerous down there. There are 150 Canadians right now being detained by ICE. And we've heard all sorts of stories about Canadians that go across the border. There's one young woman got seized and she was put into the system and put into it for 2 weeks. No crime. There was no reason to seize her or to arrest her whatsoever. That's what happened. So tariffs, threats of annexation. Oh, and the Canada, US, Mexico agreement, the free trade agreement, and our negotiating with Donald Trump. He called us really nasty people to negotiate with. I mean, come on. And that's our fault. Here's that. Remember that comment from the Hoekstra clip, uh, where he talks about how they're passionate about the relationship because they recognize building ecosystems and rebuilding the kind of economic relationship that we have. Why does it have to be rebuilt? Because Donald Trump broke it. If you didn't break it in the first place, there'd be no need to glue it back together. But somehow this is our fault because we're offended and we acted. And by the way, that the travel ban, there's not a travel ban. The Canadian government has advised Canadians not to travel because of gun violence, because of political instability, which is absolutely crazy, by the way. But nevertheless, you elected this guy. So this has been voluntary. Canadians don't want to buy American products. My wife and I don't. Lots of people I know won't. And it's affecting American businesses. And we don't want to travel. We don't feel safe. We don't feel welcome. And we feel that your government could arrest us, that we could be attacked. That's what we worry about. So, to my American audience, folks, email your congressman, email the president, email Pete Hoekstra. Can't be hard to find his email online. Write him a letter. Did you know that elected officials put about 100 times more weight on a letter than they do an email? Because you took the time to scribble something out on paper, which is more effort than doing it, and so they weight that accordingly. Better yet, give them a call. Call your congressman. Give them an earful. We want to repair the bond with Canadians that we broke. That's the message. Canadians didn't break it. You pissed us off. And as if you watch a hockey game, what happens when Canadians get pissed off? Well, they start chucking knuckles, as we say up here. You drop the mitts. So you took a swing and we started to swing back, and now you're missing a few teeth. It's not our fault. If you want to repair the relationship that we have with the United States, fix it first. You start. And as citizens who elected your president, it's up to you to put pressure on him for that to start. So my challenge to you, write, email, phone, and tell them that Canada's mad as hell. We're not taking it anymore, and you agree with us.